Oh, greetings, friends. Welcome to Mind the Moment in Everyday Life. Each month, we take a theme and explore how mindfulness can support us in bringing that theme to life in our everyday lives. Now, our theme for this month of January is mindfully setting intentions for the new year. I'm your host, John Roberts from Living Well Community, which is the world of wellness classes and on-demand programming created for you by Point 32 Health and its family of companies, which includes Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. Now, I'm thrilled to be joined all this month by your mindfulness guide, the amazing Zeenat Potia. Welcome, Zeenat.
Thank you so much for having me, John, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's on the webinar.
Now, Zeenat, you have been teaching mindfulness at organizations and retreat centers for well over 10 years. You've done many extensive and intensive silent retreats and have even received advanced certification in teaching trauma-sensitive mindfulness. Throughout January, we'll be getting to know you a bit more as a teacher. But first, I'd like us to get to know you a little bit better as a person. If you're willing, I'm wondering if you might tell us the following. Which fairy tale or story meant the most to you as a child, and why?
What a fascinating question. I was contemplating it earlier, and I was kind of a rebellious child, and wasn't didn't really resonate with fairy tales. But I did resonate with any story that had a strong female protagonist. And so I wanted to share that. So growing up in India, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, we had a female prime minister, and that really kind of lit me up. Like, oh, seeing a woman in a leadership role, running a country was something very admirable and inspiring, and it gave me a lot of confidence in myself. And so I just love that. And then there were so many, I was surrounded by a lot of female leaders. Not so much, I guess you could say my grandmother was a sort of a leader in the community, but more kind of externally in the school that I went to and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Well, I know you have daughters, Zena, and so maybe they can be our first female presidents here in the co-presidents, perhaps here in the United States.
Keep the
Now,
hope alive.
so in each of these sessions, we'll be giving folks two mindfulness practices. Now, one will be we might call a sit-down practice that you can do with us during the session, and the second will be a take-home practice designed to help you build up mindful habits in your daily life. Zeenat, I'd love to invite you to guide us in that sit-down practice. But before you do, would you mind saying a bit about what it means to mindfully set an intention, how we should go about doing it, and also how today's practice will support us in doing so?
Thank you, John, for that invitation. So I love this topic because the an active daily practice of intention setting has been transformative in my own life, and it brings me a lot of joy to offer it and to share it. So first, if we just take the word intention and kind of look at it and examine it a little bit, what does it mean? And I'd like to offer that intention from one perspective has to do with purpose. So the Old English, French, or Latin root of the word is intendere, which implies to stretch. So we can think of intention as something that allows us to grow, to develop towards something purposeful. You can even think of an intention as a guide or as possibilities. So they can guide the way we think, feel, behave, and act. Oftentimes, these two particular images help me when I'm trying to kind of grok again the meaning of the word so I can really feel it, embody it in my mind, body, heart system, is to think of intention as the light that pours out of a lighthouse. So when it's stormy and dark out at sea, it's scary, you kind of don't know, the ship doesn't know where to go. The light from a lighthouse can help direct and guide and protect and allow the ship to stay on course. And similarly, I'd like to use the metaphor of seeds. So intentions can be seeds that we plant in the ground, if you like gardening metaphors or agrarian metaphors. And then the type of seeds that we plant, we don't know what's going to come out of them. So we're not so much attached to the outcome, but we can influence, we can water them, we can give them, make sure they get enough sunshine and nutrients, and then they blossom. But we have agency over the types of seeds that we plant, over the types of intentions that we set and cultivate. So let's transition to practice. Excuse me, I'm just getting over one of those winter things. So why don't we find a comfortable posture, and that can really look differently for different bodies and different conditions. So if you're seated, then upright, a nice open torso, relaxed as much as possible. See if the head and neck, and especially the back of the neck, can be soft and relaxed. If you wish, you could practice lying down, or if you need a little bit of a boost of energy, you could stand with feet hips width apart and soft knees. And then the head and neck, whether you're standing or sitting, can be as if you're looking straight ahead. And if you wish, you're invited to close your eyes. And please receive these instructions as suggestions and do what's best for you, what's appropriate for you, and let go of the rest. We'll just begin by softening, just allowing the heart, mind, and body to soften a little bit, to relax, to recognize the truth that no matter what your conditions are in your world, that in this moment, it's relatively okay. And then I invite you to see if you'd like to set an intention for this practice, just right now, to see if something spontaneous bubbles up. To cultivate calm, to be kinder, to be patient, to rest, curiosity, any number of possibilities, but see what comes from your inner wisdom, your inner knowing, your inner healer. And then once you have something, and if nothing comes, that's okay too. If something bubbles up, watching for project mind that might be trying to find and set the best intention, just letting that part know that it's okay, that's not what we're doing right now. To just rest back a little bit and just trying to have one bubble up. Recognizing it, knowing it. And then opening and committing to present moment awareness, moment to moment. What is being known? What is being known right now? Trusting your sense perceptions, your awareness, to reveal what is being revealed. And so it might be the breath is being known, or sounds are being known, or perhaps sensations are arising and passing. if the being known is lost, it's not a problem. When you remember or you recognize that you're elsewhere, you're not the awareness of what is being known, you can choose to pause and to return to this practice of what is being known, moment to moment. It shifts, it's dynamic. And perhaps when you remember to return to what is being known, the intention might in the background be holding this practice, and so letting it support you, letting your intention support you and stretch you and grow you and develop you in this mindfulness practice of direct awareness, right here, right now, just this. The beauty of intentions is that they're not meant to be completed. They're not finite. Just as the beauty of a mindfulness practice, we get to keep beginning again and again. So giving yourself the permission and the grace to keep returning to what is being known with infinite kindness and permission. Just a few more minutes in silence together. Okay, in the next few moments, we'll begin to bring this practice to a close. So please take your time, and as you return, I invite you to just bring that intention, if you worked with one, back to the foreground. And I want to thank you for your practice.
Thank you so much for that, Zeenat. And for folks who do want to experience that meditation, again, I've just dropped into the chat 2 links where you'll be able to access the recording of this session later today. Speaking of the chat, we'd love to hear from you as well. So please let us know of any questions or comments you may have, either about today's practice, this month's topic, mindfulness in general. And while folks are thinking and typing, Zeenat, I'm wondering if you might say a few words about the take-home practice that we'll be invited to do this week.
Sure, John. So I'd love to encourage you, if you're interested, since we have this 3-week period of these 3 sessions, it can be really useful to have some sort of container or accountability for working with intentions. So if you'd like to, between today and when we return next week, come up with setting some intentions for yourself. And it's really very open. So, if you want to have something that's something you want to have a horizon around working with, for a certain period of time, you can do it that way. You can, sometimes I'll do it as a daily practice. So when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I'll do is set an intention for that day. So it's not it's not meant to be an addition to your to-do list. It's meant to be supportive.
In terms of doing this sort of practice, sort of informal practice that we're talking about here, is it better to sort of choose one intention for, I think you said for the day, is it better to choose, like a different intention every day, or is it better to sort of stick with one throughout the week? Just try a few out and see what works best?
Yeah, such a good question. I think it really depends individually on the kind of personality you are. And also, so I would say, some people like the spontaneity of the daily intention practice because it's very present moment. Like, what do I need today? I'm trying to get in touch with the feelings I need today. What kind of lighthouse do I need today? And some people like to have more kind of wider horizons of, this particular area in my life, I want to really cultivate some more self-compassion or some kindness or some patience, and then using that as kind of a wider lighthouse beam. So it really, really is, the choice is yours.
All right, wonderful. And I want to say there was so much richness in what you were describing earlier, both during and before the meditation. Something really stood out to me. You said intentions are not meant to be completed, which sounds to me like kind of a radical departure from what we might typically think of as setting goals or setting New Year's resolutions or resolutions in general. Is that correct? Would you offer, would you agree there's a distinction between the intentions and goals as we think?
Yes, there's so many distinctions. That there are 2 that I want to pull out, and thank you for that beautiful question, John. One is that goals are meant to be are often, most often, and typically attached to a specific outcome, right? So, and I find, and that can be useful in certain areas of one's life, again. So I don't want to denounce goal setting. However, intentions are not attached to outcomes. Intentions actually are an invitation to relinquish attachment to outcomes and to put that energy of lusting for a particular thing at the end into the process or the path itself. So it's a redirection of energy and trusting that the outcome will take care of itself, that our commitment, our almost, you can think of it as a vow, if that word appeals to anyone, is to cultivating, to tending to seeing the potential the possibility that intention gives us. And this creates, at least for me in my practice and in general, a sense of spaciousness, because intentions give us the permission, the freedom to fail, to begin again, to be imperfect, to keep, so because we keep orienting towards our highest intentions, and they're not, we know right off the bat that it's not something that I will ever fully accomplish what I intend. I mean, what does that even mean? If let's say my intention is to be a kind human being, it's not like I'm trying to get to a summit of kindness.
As you're speaking, I'm hearing, or something else that you said stood out to me, and I'm sort of hearing it in what you're saying, which is that intentions have the ability to stretch us, right? And whereas goals, I think, as maybe we're talking about them here, have kind of a compressing attitude about them. It's for what I'm hearing from you, it's almost like an intention is the car that takes you along the road, not the destination. But once you have the car, you can go on many different roads if you want, maybe not necessarily the one that you thought you were going on originally. But for folks who have had success, or who just feel a predilection towards setting goals, as we might call them, can an intention help one on their way to accomplishing a goal?
Yes, absolutely. So one practical tip that I'll offer is, if you're doing the daily intention settings as an example. So say I wake up in the morning and an intention comes to me of, today I intend to practice more patience. Okay. And I go about my day, and sometimes I remember it, sometimes I forget it, because lots of moving parts in anybody's day. And then what I like to do is, at the end of the day, when I'm going to sleep, I will consciously bring that intention to mind, and I'll reflect. So I like to use the word reflect, because goals have a tendency to evaluate and judge, which often leads to shame, guilt, regret, blame, all of the things that knock us down. Instead, if we reflect, oh, how did I do with this intention? There is a curiosity there. Excuse me. There is an openness and a willingness to see what happened when I remembered to be patient, and then when I forgot, or when I was triggered and I didn't even know what the word patience meant. And then there can be that opportunity to say, what can I learn from this? When I practiced it, I had this outcome, and then when I forgot, I had this outcome. So it's not good or bad. It's not judging or evaluating, but it's rather seeing when it was of benefit to myself and others, when it was wholesome, and when the behavior was unwholesome. And then I can, again, begin again. So there's a lot of gentleness, I find, with intentions. And to be frank, human beings are human beings. And so based, again, on our tendencies, we can turn intentions into goals as well. And so to just watch yourself, because ultimately, like, one of the ultimate intentions is kindness. So we have certain ultimate intentions, kindness, compassion, or non-cruelty, and then the trust, or the surrendering that we can influence, but we don't ultimately control every single thing, which for a lot of us, that's our tendency.
Well, Zeenat, you already mentioned a couple examples of intentions to be, I think you said, more patient or more kind. Are there other intentions that you've set for yourself that you wouldn't mind sharing, just to give folks some ideas about what they might direct their own intention setting towards?
Sure. So one that's been useful for me is the intention to pause. I think that we are live in a very go pushing culture, and then our psychobiology is also set up where when we're triggered or the amygdala gets activated, we immediately go into reactivity, and it's just survival. Again, it's not that we're bad meditators, it's just human nature. So fight, flight, or freeze. So learning the art, or the intending to pause, just taking a breath before speaking, acting, thinking, before the next thought comes, can be useful. The intention to recognize that everything is changing, that there is impermanence, that things change, that, whatever situation one might find yourself in, and sometimes when things can seem so solid or fixed, and it can be an intention to orient to impermanence, can be really useful. But it's hard to pick favorites, but I would say kindness is one of my all-time favorites, and non-harm, the intention to act from a place of non-harm.
And I suppose we should also say that if you're trying out different intentions, that's always, these are always good ones. You can have the intention to be kind can be the one you have every day for the rest of your life. I think that's
right.
probably that one will carry us through. Well, Zeenat, as we're approaching time here, I just want to say I couldn't be more grateful for your guidance today. I'm loving the fact that you'll be back with us next week as well to continue exploring this topic with us. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we will see you very soon.
Sounds good. Have a good week, everyone.
Now, the final word before I go, lent to us by Aristotle, who wrote, quote, "A person becomes just by doing just things, and prudent from practicing wisdom. But many act the way sick people do, who listen to their doctors seriously and then do nothing of what they were prescribed. Just as these patients will not end up healthy from treating their body in this way, so most people won't change their soul with such philosophy," end quote. It is our hope that the practices you learned today may be a fitting prescription for getting your new year off to a good start. We hope to see everyone next week. We'll be back with Zeenat. Until then, go forth and be excellent to each other as intentionally as possible.